So welcome again for being here. As I said before, how to be in charge of your state. Now, as we saw last week, we spoke a little bit about how we create success. And one of the things that we need in order to create success is to actually be in charge of our own state, which is really, really important. Because being ready for success, being able to cope with what happens sometimes around success, because sometimes success means that you're going to have to do more things or have more things around you or deal with more people. So you need to be able to be in charge of your state. So we spoke in the NLP communication model that your state influences your behavior. So what I'm going to teach you today basically comes directly from Hawaiian Huna and is also taught in NLP as well. And we actually call this the learning state. So let's have a little talk about what is it that I mean by all of this, and how do you actually start using this? How do you learn this tool for yourself? So the first thing I want to talk about, because this is where the distinction is, it's around foveal versus peripheral vision. Now, foveal vision means that you're focusing in on one thing. Foveal vision tends to be quite restrictive and quite, I suppose the word is, it's very, very restrictive to the body. We spoke about, physiology and all that last week. So being in foveal vision creates a restriction in the way you think. It also creates a restriction in your body. And thus it doesn't allow you to have the physiology or the ability to think outside of the actual box. Peripheral vision is an expanded state of awareness. Now, being in peripheral vision, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in a moment, allows you to actually have a more open physiology to start with, but also it basically allows the unconscious mind to have a more open and expanded view of what's out there. Now, foveal vision activates the sympathetic nervous system. It activates the nervous system which controls fight or flight. So what happens is if you go into foveal vision, you are actually more in a state of fight or flight. Peripheral vision, that expanded vision, is more, activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's more that calm, peaceful feeling. This is exactly what happens when we go into a meditation. Meditation actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system as well. So learning how to do what we call the learning state allows you to actually go into parasympathetic nervous system whenever you need to. So whatever's happening in your life, in order for you to get results at the way you want and get success, you need to be coming from a place where you're not stressed, where you're a lot calmer. So being able to learn, being able to be in charge of a situation, being able to respond to a situation, all comes from you being able to actually expand that vision and be in that parasympathetic nervous system, because you act in a completely different way when you're in parasympathetic than when you are in sympathetic nervous system. Those chemical hormones that are released causing stress and all those sorts of things. So as I said, we call this the learning state. So foveal vision means restricted. You're restricted, and you can try that now yourself. You feel if you focused on one thing. Now, these days, it's really important that not only yourself, but if you have children or grandchildren, that you teach them what I'm just about to teach you. And the reason for that is because we're always on devices, which means that we're constantly restricting our view. We're in constant foveal vision, meaning that we're constantly activating that sympathetic nervous system. So being able to go into that parasympathetic nervous system actually allows you to deactivate those stress hormones and become a lot calmer. So basically, what do? You basically find a spot just above eye level and you expand your vision 90 degrees left and 90 degrees right, so that you can notice everything that's in your vision at 90 degrees to the left and 90 degrees to the right, while still focusing on that spot on the wall. And doing that allows you basically to open up, we call it the trapdoor to the unconscious mind. And here you're able to be more in charge. Your sympathetic nervous system is dulled down, so you're calmer. You're more likely to be able to respond and be in charge of your behavior and thus your results. So really, really important. So this also allows you to actually tap into the unconscious mind. As I said before, we're opening up the trapdoor to the unconscious mind. So being in a parasympathetic nervous system allows you to learn better. That is why we call this the learning state. That's why if you teach this to children to actually sit in a classroom and open up their peripheral vision, it allows them to be able to learn better. But it also allows you to be able to go deeper into resources that are stored in your unconscious mind and be able to actually control what happens next in your reaction. You can never control what happens outside of you, but it can control how you can communicate. So imagine even being in some sort of conversation where possibly it's beginning to get a little bit fiery or something like that, or you're in, you know, you have to talk to someone about something that's a little bit difficult. If you get yourself into peripheral vision, you're actually a lot calmer. You actually find yourself that you can speak from a place that comes from being in that parasympathetic, peaceful state. So it's a great way of being able to live your life. In actual fact, as I said before, this comes from Huna, ancient Hawaiian Huna, and the kahunas, or the medicine men, I guess you would call them, back in Hawaii, would actually live in peripheral vision. That's how they would be. They would actually be in a state of expanded awareness all the time. And they were so calm. So a couple of little tricks that can happen when you go into the learning state. You actually can recover information from your unconscious mind. You can actually recover memories a lot easier as well. This is something that I've done. If you lose your keys or something, go into this peripheral vision and you'll be surprised what happens. You can actually recover some memories as well. But as I said before, it is an amazing way if you start to find yourself becoming anxious or becoming upset in any way. Going into peripheral vision will actually bring in all those hormones that take you into that peaceful, calming, parasympathetic type situation. If you stay in foveal vision when you're getting, you know, a little bit anxious and things like that, what happens, or you have to make a decision and you're starting to get a little bit anxious around that decision, what will happen is you will actually spiral and you release those fight, flight type hormones, which we all know are not good for you. So getting into peripheral vision allows us to be in what we call flow state. Now, flow state means a lot of different things to a lot of people, but to me, it's the ability to be able to be in charge of how I feel in any given moment. So being able to go from being in a situation where things are starting to get on top of me or I'm starting to get upset, being able to put myself very quickly, and I do this all the time, I actually teach in a state of peripheral vision or flow state. I learn whenever I go off to any seminars or conferences, I always put myself into a state of peripheral vision. It has become more of a normal for me, something that I do without even thinking about it anymore. But being able to expand your awareness when things start to get on top of you allows you to live and be more in that calming flow state. Now, what it does for me, just as an example of how I feel, it's almost like taking yourself to that place of meditation without doing that formal meditation. So it helps you, you know, if you start coming up with a memory and you start getting really upset, or as I said, you have to make a decision, anything like that, you can actually put yourself into peripheral vision very quickly and you will find it dissipates very fast. It puts you in a situation where the nervous system will actually calm down and you will make that decision, or your behavior that comes next will come from a place of where you're more calmer, of where you're more likely to be able to access the information that you need, rather than that spiral of going into fight or flight. So really, really important. So one of the ways we can use this is to actually break, right, the chains that hold you or have some bad attachments to your past. So let's say you have a decision to make, and this is where it's really important in business, okay? But let's say you have a decision to make and your unconscious mind is holding on to a bad attachment of something that happened in your past. So you've got a bad memory, something's going wrong, or you need to see someone as well. You're going to go, you know, we often laugh about family gatherings and things like that. And all these things invoke bad attachments or bad feelings. What you can do is allow yourself to go into that peripheral vision, so expanded awareness. And if you need to, you can hold your hands up next to your ears, and while focusing on that spot on the wall, try and see if you can see your hands, focusing on that spot on the wall, and in your peripheral vision, looking at those hands as well. And staying in that will allow you to actually reframe. It will automatically reframe the way that event is being held, that person's being held, the attachment to that person will be reframed. So whenever an event starts to trigger you, go into peripheral vision. If a person begins to trigger you, go into peripheral vision. Even if you're with that person and they start saying things that you don't like and it starts triggering you, go into peripheral vision. Once you learn to do this, you won't need to have your hands up. What I usually do is I look up at the spot on the wall. I just quickly look to the left, quickly look to the right, focus back up to that spot on the wall, and then allow my peripheral vision to open while still focusing on that spot. Another thing that you can absolutely do, which is really great, and this is actually an anchor for your unconscious mind as well, is actually think of a time where you felt amazing or you felt really, really good. Now, as you bring that memory to mind, I want you to open up to peripheral vision. And while you're in peripheral vision, think of how amazing that event was for you. Now, while you're still holding that event, that feeling, you can actually then go into any situation You've anchored in that feeling to that peripheral vision. You can go into any situation, open up your peripheral vision, and you will have anchored that feeling into your peripheral vision, so that every time you go into peripheral vision, you're going to feel that. So a really, really great way of being in charge of your state. So just quickly to recap, foveal vision means sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. Peripheral vision allows you to go into parasympathetic nervous system, meaning you go into peace and calmness. So whenever an event triggers you, allow yourself to go into peripheral vision. It will take away those feelings that are created by the fight or flight. And it will allow you to be in a more in charge state. Also being able to anchor some really great states or times when you felt really good into peripheral vision means that every time after that, when you actually do put yourself into peripheral vision, expanded awareness, and something's happening around you, or let's say even that you have to go and speak. This is one of the things that we do as speakers as well. When we go on stage, we actually go into peripheral vision. It actually allows all those feel-good emotions to come filtering back because they are now anchored into the memories of you going into that peripheral vision. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. A cool little trick. I know we call it the learning state, but if you can begin to get into the habit of putting yourself into an expanded awareness, it will create different results for you every single time you have to do something that you're feeling triggered about, anxious about, worried about, and all those sorts of things. And how much better would it be to live your life in a parasympathetic nervous system, calm and at peace, than the other way around. So thanks so much for watching, guys. And quick reminder, you can find me on all social media platforms under Sandra Modafferi, where I have lots of interesting little tidbits that we put up every single day. So if you like any of this, follow me, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.